Hello and welcome everyone to another Startup Tuesday. Thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to be here with you and sharing our experience and stories in multifamily. I'm ThatKimberly, and my co-host Deb will be back next week. We're really excited to share some things that we got going on next week. But today's chat will be with our guest, John Hinckley, about fundraising and whether or not you should self fund or look for private investors. So we're excited to jump into that. Before I do that, I want to make sure everybody knows that we are live on LinkedIn, the Facebook, or we should call it Meta now, YouTube. But wherever you're watching from, make sure you let us know where you're watching from. If you watch on the replay, put hashtag replay and where you're watching. If you have a question, we absolutely want to answer those questions during the live. If you catch this on the replay and you have a question for John, just make sure you tag him so he can come back and answer that. But without further ado, let me bring in John. Hey, John.
Hey, Kimberly, good to be with you.
Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. So let's jump into this conversation.
Absolutely. No, I've been anxiously awaiting to join your podcast, so I'm excited.
Cool. Appreciate it. Well, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, 90 seconds or less, the high level version.
Yeah. So from Dallas, Texas, went to school at Baylor, and have been an
Go Bears.
entrepreneur. Yeah, go Bears. Really dominating all things college sports these days. But yeah, was basically jumped right out of the gate as an entrepreneur from graduating college, and probably have been involved in starting 5 or 6 companies, most of them failures, at least until late. But really learned a lot about how to build an idea into a business.
Yeah.
I'll say really quick, my first jump into this, I got a patent on this idea to develop a lime slicer, and yeah, like a consumer good lime slicer, like an apple
Nice.
core where you slice. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lime slicer. No one had it. No one had created one for consumers, so I created one, and I got a patent on it, and it was a total failure. But it got me, it helped me catch the bug of entrepreneurship, of
Yeah.
taking an idea and creating it and then selling it. So that really launched my career into entrepreneurship, and have been in multifamily now for about 15 years.
Wow.
In
So
2007, I started in multifamily. So
you were true, try again. You get back up. It's not how many times you fail, but it's about getting how many times you get back up and try, go at it again, because
yeah,
like but you never lose that bug for sure. I
you
get
never
that
lose.
part.
I mean, and it's okay to fail. Failing is a part of the process, right?
Yeah, you
So
learn. You learn
yeah,
from your
fail
experiences,
early,
right?
fail hard. That was my motto.
Well, we appreciate you sharing. And Laura says hello. And Deb says, sick 'em bears. I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming she might have gone to Baylor, or she likes Baylor.
Sick 'em.
So, give a little insight around. So now we know you've tried several times with businesses or ideas, if you will. Give us a little insight around your fundraising experience.
Yeah, so I really, started to learn about fundraising and the importance of fundraising back in my Irio days.
Oh, good old
Irio,
area. Texting.
IRIO, mobile
Yeah.
marketing. It's still out there today. A great texting
Yeah.
solution for multifamily. We actually were the first to bring multifamily texting, to leads and communication tools for
Yes, you
multifamily.
were.
And
I remember. That's where we met.
Kimberly, you took me into your wing. You showed me around, and fell in love with multifamily ever since.
Yeah.
But with that business, that was a heavy bootstrap business that was self-funded through me and a business partner. And we actually never went through the true fundraising phase. We thought about it, we talked about it, but we bootstrapped the entire thing and self-funded the entire thing. And it got off the ground and it did well. But as I start to like really reflect on that journey, you start to really think, if we would have properly funded the business early, how much further could that business have gone? How much more could it have done? And so you really start to, see clearly the pros and cons of fundraising versus not fundraising, which I think we're going to get into. But that one was bootstrapped, and if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have definitely fundraised in that journey. But that was totally bootstrapped, no funding. And it was very, very painful, very painful to grow. I mean, you talk about like attracting talent and good people, and like you really want to give the business the fuel in the tank to thrive. And like, when you're bootstrapping, that's a bit of a struggle.
And I also, to your point, I always tell people when they run a P&L, that whatever your budget is, double that, right? Because especially if you're going to go about it yourself, you want to think real numbers, because you never know what's going to happen, right? And the fact that you said that was painful and you didn't fundraise, I can't like even imagine going that long, right? Like it is definitely, we raised $1 million, but I always say I asked for 2 and I should have stuck to that, but we'll go through that later. But it's painful when you're not properly funded.
It certainly is. And I would even say in some cases, not just double your estimates, but triple your cost estimates, because it's always more than you think. But really, it's really finding that right balance that's right for you in your business. To really make sure that because there's not a right or wrong way to do it. It's just what's right for your business and your particular situation.
Right. So what should people be thinking about when they start to go, even if it's, any kind of outside money, whether it's, friends and family, seed, or, big VC? What businesses should they be thinking about when they're going to fundraise?
So if you're going to go down the path of fundraising for your business, my first comment is to make sure you're 100% committed to seeing it through. Taking people's money is a big responsibility, and your reputation is on the line. Their money is on the line. You have a fiduciary duty as a part of taking money from people and growing your business. And so, I would say make sure you're really willing to see it through, because it is a long, hard journey when you're building a business, and, taking on investors is just more responsibility, people to keep in the loop and update on. And it's something that you don't want to decide to do lightly. I'd also say make sure you know your end game when you raise money. Like what is the end game? Like is your goal to take money, grow a business fast and sell it? Is it take money, and grow a business and try to, maybe buy people out down the road so it's 100% yours? Is it to, maybe take a loan to fund the business?
All of that.
And that really centers around like what your goals are and what's your plan. Like, why are you building a business? And if it's to build it and sell it, taking money makes a lot of sense, because you can grow it fast and make an exciting business quickly.
And having those conversations early on with whether it be your partners, if it's your team, or if it's the people that you're pitching to. Like if you're not, I learned the hard way, if not having those conversations about, hey, this is what we really want to do, then it's not going to work out, right?
Yep.
Like somebody's going to get the losing end of that.
That's right. So you don't want to go into a blind without a plan that's really thought out. And by the way, if you don't have a plan, you're probably not going to succeed at raising money either. So know your end game. Get your docs in order. I would advise anybody, especially younger people that are starting businesses, to never work on a handshake deal or never work on something that isn't formalized through a company agreement, because you can really get yourself in trouble.
Into
You're just
trouble.
asking for it if you don't have your docs in order. So
Yeah.
make sure that you're thinking through how you're structuring your business and the agreements that are in place,
Yeah.
and do it right. The legal expenses you incur, like to get the business set up, are not that much. You just want to make
And it's
sure
so
you
much
don't.
easier now, right? Like than it was
It's
when like LegalZoom. There's now a Zen Business or Zen something. I just saw a commercial for that helps you set all that up. Like I remember I was begging and pleading for people in the legal field to help me because I had no idea what I was doing, right?
go back to 2010. Like, it's a completely different world, and I mean, like, it's stunning how much things have changed in the startup
Yeah.
world in the last 10 years. And so yeah,
Hmm.
there are wonderful tools available. Like, I can remember managing my cap table inside of an Excel spreadsheet. Now there's like full on businesses that manage cap tables
Wow.
for your different investors. We used Carta for a while, which was really well for Modern Message. That worked really well for us. But I also say, just be thinking about the terms that are right for you. And
Hmm.
this is something that took me a while to really truly understand. But investors need
I know.
businesses, and startups more than startups need investors. I know that feels backwards when you're like trying to get going
Okay.
and you're trying to
Say that
convince
again.
people.
Say it again.
Investors need the startup and the business,
Hmm.
to invest in
More
more
than
than the founder
needs the
needs
money.
a particular. I think there are more investors out there than there are businesses, and
Why?
so
Why is that? Why do you just for those people who don't understand that? I mean, I get where you're going, but explain that.
yeah. So, like, I guess what I'm getting at is that, when you really want to raise money to take your business to the next level, you're passionate about it.
Hmm.
You really believe in it, and you're also in some areas deep down within
Yeah.
nervous, scared, desperate, even, to like get things going. And you can put yourself in a situation to compromise on the terms that you want just because you need the money. And if you really can get out there and get your ideas in front of enough people, you'll find that there are
The
lots of
right.
investors out there that will invest in your business. Don't jump at the first person that says, I'll give you money,
Yeah.
because you might
That's
get stuck with a brutal investor that
yeah.
shows up at your office every week telling you what to do. And it's just, you want to be careful to vet your investors right, and
Yeah.
know that, like, there are a lot of people that are looking for the right ideas, and investors are looking for the right fit for them. And
Yeah.
so just because maybe the first few investors say no, doesn't mean that you have a bad idea. Just got to get out there and
Yeah.
work it.
Like
So
finding like-minded investors is very, very important. I always preach that, not in the way that you just said it, but I always tell people like-minded investors is super important if you're going to go and seek money. And you'll have to pitch 110 times, maybe 1,000 times, but if you're passionate and you love what you do, that's just what you have to do. Like you said, there's people out
exactly.
there.
I mean, I sat in front of hundreds of
Mhm.
investors before I found what really was right for us. So
So you okay? So you self-funded then your second business, or whatever number that Modern Message was, right? For the first how long, and then like how then what are the pros and cons of that self-funding that led you to we're going to go find big money, right?
yeah, so when we launched Modern Message, we really kind of launched it with me and my co-founder, and we launched it together and got a product out into the market quickly that we kind of self-funded, and really waited till we got our first, handful of contracts, that
Mm-hmm.
showed progress, and immediately moved into what you'd call like the friends and family or angel round of investment, where you try to get enough seed capital to really start putting fuel in the tank. Not too much money, because you don't want to give up too much too soon as you're trying to
Yeah.
determine what you're doing. But I think we
Mm-hmm.
raised about $500,000 on the angel round, the first round of the angel groups, where we had I think it was like 15 something people put in 50 grand or 25 grand, a combination of different groups. So it's low risk to these angel groups, to really help us get off the ground. And we actually ended up doing two angel rounds. We did kind of a first angel round and a second angel round. Um, and let me just say, it worked out very, very well for those
Yeah.
individuals that took the risk. It's high risk, high reward. Those early
Hmm.
stage investments are the odds of them, working out are low at times. And so they definitely risked a lot, but we were able to get the business off the ground, and do a second angel round. And I'd say that one thing that I really learned a lot about in this first, working with angels was making sure that you're valuing the business properly.
Okay.
You can do things like a convertible note, where if you were to, you know, have the business grow really, really fast in the first year, that the equity that you've given up for that money would be a lot less, versus if the business didn't take off in the first year. And so, or first couple of years. And so, a convertible note is definitely a good way to go, to make sure you don't give up more of the business than you should in those
Okay.
early stage,
That's important.
funding
Yeah.
round. That's very important, because you don't want to
Hmm.
give up more than you should. So then we grew with the angel groups, and then it was actually the angel groups that helped us get connected with a number of VCs. That
Hmm.
once you start making $1 million a year in revenue, and then $1.5 million, and then two, you can start capturing the attention of the VCs. So I started to get to know a lot of different VC groups, through my existing angel groups, which was great.
Okay.
And I think that one thing that I also learned is that angel groups can be very helpful in
Yeah.
helping you kind of get ready to take on the next level. But I would also advise people to try to get to know these VC groups, or even private equity, when you hit that final level. Get to know them early, so you're not just
Hmm.
some guy showing up. Like, they've been watching your business for a year. They have seen your growth and your progress, and they're comfortable with you. That definitely makes the process go smoother.
Yeah. It definitely. What when you structure, like you talked about the convertible notes and structuring, um, in the early terms, right? So you don't have to give up as talk about a little bit about the control side of things, right? When you're that convertible note, so you don't have to give up as much of the business if you do have to go get more funding.
Well, I only advise your audience to do the convertible note, because I didn't do the convertible note, and
Oh,
it was painful. It was painful
okay.
later down the road, when you start thinking about how you value the business in the early stages. But at the same time, very happy for your investors that do well.
Hmm.
You just want to be smart. You want to
Yeah.
be smart and not give up more than you should. But as we started to really
Grow.
grow as a business, I learned something that maybe not be obvious to people that aren't as into the startup fundraising world, which is that the percent of equity that's out there and owned by investors doesn't necessarily translate to control. For example, if your investors own 51% of your business, depending on how you structure your company, that doesn't mean your investors control your business. You can structure your business through board votes and
Hmm.
control, to make sure that even if you have fundraised so much to where more than 50% of your investors own the business, that doesn't mean that they can collectively go control the business. So that's all done through your company agreement docs. And so that was a great tactic to make sure that I could raise the money I needed to let the business succeed, while also maintaining control, making sure that we're doing what we need to do to be successful.
Yeah. Control and equity, like, um money, right, is what I'd always tell people. There's that control factor, and then that's control who makes the decision in the business, and then there's the percentage of money that you're going to get in return once the business sells, right? There's two
Yep,
things there,
that's
right,
right.
that are really, really important, and I learned the hard way as well.
Yeah, And the good news is that the terms are between you and your investors, and so it
Yeah.
just all comes down to what works for both groups and
Hmm.
negotiating the right terms on both paths. But knowing your terms, I think, and knowing what you want out of it is important. And I think when you think about the business that you have, if you're developing and building a lifestyle business, probably not great idea to bring on investors for that,
Yeah.
because a lifestyle business is there to serve you and how you want to live your lifestyle, versus really working on a business that's there to take money from people and grow it as quickly as possible and build it and sell it. So knowing your end game, again, going back to that, is key.
Important. What about fundraising while you work the business? Because when we started this series of in within multifamily, one of the articles that I read talked about your business plan. It talked about fundraising much later, and I have always, well, after my 15 years of experience and what we did, I wish I would have not had to fundraise at while I did the business, right? I know it's kind of like the cart before the horse, and what's the other term about the chicken before the egg? But it is hard, right? Fundraising while running the business. Like, if I hadn't been in my 30s, I don't think, with no children, I don't think I would have been able to do that. What was
Yeah,
it like for you, and what are your thoughts on that?
it was hard. It was hard. As the CEO of a growing startup business, your number one job is to not run out of money.
Hmm.
You run out of money and the party is over and everybody goes home. So
Yeah.
like that has to be the thing that you keep your eye on. Number one is making sure you don't run out of money and that you're properly funding the business to succeed.
Yeah.
So that is a critical piece. And so what we did at Modern Message, which was very successful and really a great ride, was first I had a great partner. I had a great business partner, and we
Hmm.
had a nice way we worked
Marriage.
together through
Yeah,
this
nice
thing.
work marriage, right? Like,
Yeah, it is true, and it's a nice balance of strengths and weaknesses in a partnership. And so I was fortunate to have a really good partner. But we instituted what we call the EOS system. It's the entrepreneurial operating system, and it's really built upon a visionary integrator model of how do you run a business. And so you have your visionary, which is really kind of big picture, going after the opportunities, cutting the big deals, and raising the money. And then you have your integrator, which is there to kind of handle the operations of the business. And so because I had that visionary integrator model, I was able to release aspects of our business and how we operated to my partner, so
hmm
I could go fundraise and I could keep the business fueled. And so that was an important piece. And then we made that shift probably at about year 3 of the business, where you shift over to the EOS model, and just it allowed us to really shoot Modern Message to the moon. I mean, all the way, because
yeah,
it freed me up to do the things that I needed to do to make sure the business succeed, and also allowed me to operate in my strengths and my business partner to operate in his strengths. So,
yeah,
so I started to build relationships with different investors and meet different people and start to make sure they're aware of our growth. I also will say that when you're fundraising while operating the business, especially in tech, as a SaaS business, growth is everything, and then low attrition is important as well. And we just had great numbers on both fronts, and so it allowed us to really go out and find the right VC that worked for us and negotiate the terms that worked for us. But even in those journeys, it was still bumpy at times, and there were a lot
yeah.
of uncertainties, and you got to do what's right. I mean, there were moments where we walked away from stuff that we didn't think we were going
Hmm.
to walk away from, and you just got to
Yeah,
take it one step at a time and do what's right for your business in that very moment. And every
absolutely.
business's story is different. So
Oh yeah. The when you said, give the definition of attrition for those who might not know what that means, because it is important. People don't think about that number.
yeah, so a SaaS business, software as a service, it's heavy subscription based, and
Yes.
so subscription based businesses are what investors refer to as a high quality revenue businesses, versus a transactional business, which is still quality revenue, but
Mm-hmm.
someone has to make a choice to make a transaction with a business versus that monthly subscription every month. It's really
Reoccurring.
consistent, solid revenue,
Yeah.
recurring revenue. And so if you have a really good subscription business with recurring revenue and you have low attrition, which means
They
the
don't
low
cancel.
small cancellation numbers, like people
Yeah.
stick with it and they like it and they don't cancel, that's a high quality business. And if
Yeah.
you have high attrition, then that's a much lower quality business. People don't stick around, which means you have to go get twice the new customers to maintain that growth. But if you can
Yeah.
grow at double, triple digits and then keep low attrition, then you're in a
That's
great
important.
spot with SaaS
Absolutely.
businesses. Yeah.
And that's something that they definitely didn't teach. Well, I didn't learn. I always tell people I got my college degree in marketing, but I got my MBA in how to start a business by doing this just on its own, and had no idea what that word attrition meant until, it became important to investors, right? Like canceling and how much it took to get a new customer and the cost it did, the cost of doing business is, especially in a technology, you know, realm, because technology is constantly changing, softwares, hardware, everything. Like before AWS was even a thing, right? Like having your own servers, what did all that mean, right? Like all those things come with the cost of doing your business, and learning that as you go and paying attention to it became really, really important.
Yep.
Um, how did you figure those things out like that?
I,
The
much like you,
without totally blowing up your world, or showing your skirt, if you will, right? Because people want to, they want to have I mean, you're a very ethical business person and people trust you, right? And at the same time you were learning something because you hadn't been down that path. So
yep.
how'd you
Oh
balance
yeah,
that?
I mean it was a journey, and like I say, I got my MBA or doctorate, whatever, in startups and fundraising, because I was learning along the way.
Yeah.
But you really start to pick up what it is that investors are looking for, and if you can really get to a place where you see and understand what they're looking for, that gets them excited about investing in a business,
Mm-hmm.
then and you're meeting those expectations, then you will see a lot of options coming your way. And so we already talked about scalability, subscription. Businesses are
Mm-hmm.
very exciting. I mentioned what I mentioned, attrition was key, right? Understanding your lifetime value of your customers. They'll ask you questions, and if you don't know how to answer those questions, it
Yeah.
really reveals how green you are in how experienced you are in knowing how to fundraise, knowing how to talk about your business, and a lot of these will um, your investors are going to see these as red flags. If you don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to answer some of these fundamentals,
Yeah.
what's your customer acquisition cost? How does the
What's your burn rate?
business? What's your burn rate? How does the
Yeah.
business scale? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what are your forecasts? Walk me through your P&L. So these are all things that you need to be very, very familiar with and know how to answer, to be able to really, as you start to go next level from angel. There's a lot of grace for angels, because angels are really more spraying their investments, small investments across dozens of companies. And then VC and PE starts to get very, very, very targeted. So you will start to really be challenged as you go up the chain on your investment, and who you're getting investment from. And you really
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure you know how to answer their questions and address their concerns, and talk about your
Yeah.
business. Otherwise, you're going to look like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I did find that every time we did a presentation, you're like, everybody wants something different, right? So we take, I too was blessed with a great business partner. Shout out to Janet, that we took great notes, right? And then we always were, we answered the questions, and the ones we didn't, we were honest and we said, we'll get back to you. And we got back to them, right? Like, make sure you can answer, I would say, what, 90% of them, but
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with saying you don't know, as long as you get back to them. What is your thought on that?
Absolutely. And I think you're hitting on, integrity and character and honesty and how you do this. Like, never make something up, never, give an answer that you don't know. Like, be very transparent, very honest. It's okay if you don't know the answer, and it's very okay to say, I'll get back to you on that. That happens all the
Absolutely.
time,
Yeah.
but it's very, very, very important that trust is built when you're working with investors. That's a critical
100%.
piece.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, Laura. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your support.
Hey,
Um,
there's a lot of money out there. Okay. So, like, this is a good time to be starting a business. It really
I
is.
know.
It's exciting. I would just say to anybody thinking about doing it, be patient.
Yes.
Don't jump in. Don't be desperate. Remember,
Correct.
investors need you just as much. And,
Yeah.
you know, be sure to manage your investors. Don't let an
Yeah.
investor
Good
take
point.
over and tell you what to do.
Absolutely.
And managing investors is a big part of this as well, managing their expectations. So, anyways,
Expectations 100%. One last great question that was thrown out. Where do people find, you know, private investors, VC type of groups?
yeah. Um, I'll just say for me, it was just networking. It was just
Mm,
meeting people, taking lunches, going to coffees, asking for someone to introduce you to somebody, and once you start meeting people, they're to introduce you to more people. I can't tell you how many times people were incredibly generous to say, "Hey, you should talk to this person. They're doing
yeah.
something really, really cool. You may want to invest in them." So leverage your networks and people that you know. As you start to maybe move into talking to your angels, it's really easy to get online and research all the angel groups, whether it's in your area or region or even across the
Hmm.
country. And they
Google
have
is your
most,
mother.
yeah, exactly. They a lot of these groups have very, very good processes. These angel groups to get into their vetting system where they'll see a deck, they'll do some interviews, and then
Hmm.
if they like it, they'll put you in front of their angel groups. And so just start interviewing and start going through that process of getting to know the different angel groups in your area, and then that'll open more doors, because
Yeah.
in that presentation you'll meet 5 other entrepreneurs that are also fundraising that know a lot of people. So just getting
Yeah.
out there and connecting and networking, I think, is the best way to do that.
Did you ever pay for one of the groups? Did you find that that was, and I don't know if it's still like that, but I know back when we were doing that, we didn't, we thought about it, but we never went into one of the groups that you had to pay to be a part of, right?
Yeah, it was more of a fee,
Okay.
for the time that they spent vetting your business. You'll pay
Got
a
it.
fee. It wasn't a lot of money. I don't know, $250, something,
Okay.
to go and pitch your business. I think there's a bit of accountability that they just don't want anybody walking off the street. Here's my idea. They want to kind of make you put a little bit of of money and
Skin.
sweat into
Yeah.
it.
Skin in the game. Yeah.
But I don't think that that's unfair, for angel groups to do that. I'm a part of an angel group. I'm a part of
Hmm.
the Baylor Angel Group. And I think you want to make sure, if you're going to bring everybody's attention to a handful of businesses, that they're really serious about
Yeah. Well,
what
that makes
they're
sense.
pitching. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So,
I
but
always tell people,
never work with some. Well, okay.
go ahead.
My personal motto:
Okay.
never hire some guy to go around and raise money, and then he gets 10% of everything you raise. Like, I don't like that. I wouldn't recommend doing that. You don't need to do that. And that just makes somebody rich taking money from the business that you
Yeah.
really do need. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
That's good. Good to know. Good advice. I always ask people or tell people, when you network with someone, you take a coffee. If they say no to you, ask them, is there someone else that you think would be interested? Like,
for
at
sure.
the end of the day, because if you don't ask, you won't get, right? And that right there, when you're fundraising, I did so many, every time they said, no, I don't understand the business, or no, I would say, okay, well, do you know someone that you could introduce me to? And then it gets their mind thinking, right? Or if they just say, no, I can't do it, but I know somebody else, usually that's how the conversation would go. But I would always ask if it didn't happen like that. So,
People are
yeah.
always excited to introduce you to their rich friends, right? If there's an idea. So Yeah, absolutely ask and connect. And
Yeah,
by the way, the rich people are looking for businesses to invest in. So it's kind of a
yep,
win-win. So
for
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
So do you have any more, like, do you think we hit everything? Is there any last piece of advice or insight you would give to, someone has a startup or is thinking and coming into multifamily? That was really the biggest. I always tell people you need more than $2 million if you're, going to be coming into multifamily as a startup, because it's definitely a longer process. But
Yep.
I don't
It's
know.
a common tale. People underfund their businesses. Even in my journey, and which recently has been successful, I can reflect and look back and say, what, I should have raised more money so we could have gone faster. And so it always takes more than you think. So
Yeah,
don't underfund your business. Make sure you're giving your business the fuel in its tank to grow and be successful and really tackle the opportunities. And I would just also say, especially in the early stage, just be careful about taking money from family and friends, and making sure you
yeah,
really want to do that, because you're putting relationships at risk long term. And
yeah,
you want to sometimes you don't really go through the accredited investor process with friends and family, and people who say they have a lot of money really don't. And if you
yeah,
lose it, it really, really is a painful thing.
yeah,
Fortunately, I didn't have to go through that, but like I've heard of this happening a bit. So you want to make sure that you are taking money from people that are accredited
yeah,
investors, and not just someone who's willing to offer you money. But
yeah.
yeah, no, it is a wild ride. It is fun. It's terrifying, but it's
It's
it's for
addictive.
me. It is
It's
addictive, and I got the bug. The entrepreneurial bug is there, and so
yeah,
I hope that this is helpful to anybody that is looking to fundraise. And
yeah. Well,
uh,
tell people how they can connect with you. If they have any questions, and what you're up to now. Like, what are you doing now, John?
so yeah, so 2 years ago, Modern Message was acquired by RealPage. And so since
Congratulations
thank
again.
you, and also the acquisition. You should do a whole podcast on the acquisition process, because
Oh
that's
yeah,
also fascinating.
we'll have you
Um,
back for that one.
a,
Once
a
you
ton,
sell, then
a,
what?
a ton of fun, a ton of fun. But yeah, I work at RealPage. I'm over the leasing and living and contact center solutions across RealPage. Pretty much all the solutions that are touching the renters. And so I'm having a great time there at RealPage. And they've gone out through some transformation lately. They were acquired by Thoma Bravo last summer. And so there's some new leadership that's really taking RealPage in a new direction that's exciting. So I
Mhm.
work at RealPage. You can find me on LinkedIn. I don't know if my email. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there's my
there
email,
it
my
is.
RealPage email. Happy to answer questions wherever I can, and whatever I can do to really serve the industry. I love the startups I'm seeing in this industry. I love the momentum and the tech revolution that's happening in multifamily.
Yeah,
Kimberly, you and I have witnessed this for the last 15 years. So many of us have, and it's exciting. It's exciting times,
yeah,
and so we're doing some innovation at RealPage. We're partnering with people that are doing some great work, and so I really hope that overall this is helpful, and I'd like to see this continue in multifamily, because it is such a great industry, and there's so much room
yeah.
for innovation.
Yeah, sharing. Thank you. That is so people reach out to John because he knows, and what he doesn't know, I do feel like you mentored me in ways you didn't realize by just your honesty of, figuring things out. We both figured things out, along the way. I have a truly soft heart for those coming into multifamily using the word complex and not knowing what they're doing at a conference. So, that, but I also want multifamily to grow. I want people to consider us first, right? When they're coming into, whether it's sharing an idea or whether they want a career in multifamily, that's really where this spawned from. So please, folks, reach out to John because he knows what he's talking about, and he's gonna point you in the right direction if he doesn't know. Because because we're constantly learning, right, John? It's not
Obvious, obvious.
and startups do there no one fit for anyone. and it's a process. You got to enjoy the journey and the process, and it does.
You do. And I just have to say, you taking me under your wing, showing me the ropes of multifamily early stages is a big reason for why I'm here. And I am trying to pay it forward as best I can with younger startups and younger people that are trying to build businesses. So you are a great model for me, and I'm trying to do the same out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We want our worlds to continue to mesh, and we want our industry to continue to thrive for sure. So if you all have a question for John afterwards, please tag him in the comments. Again, if you watch this on the replay, let us know where you watched it from. Maybe the acquisition, John will come back with Deborah and talk about the acquisition process, because it's definitely something that is totally unpredictable, but quite exciting at the same time. I'm super excited that things happened the way it did for you, and the acquisition, went well, because it doesn't always happen that way, right? And Deborah says, love that, she's in. So please, folks, we will definitely see you next Tuesday. Well, John, and Deb will have to talk off camera. It's going to be about acquisitions or not. And until then, everyone, I hope you guys have a great week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.